coronavirus has turned deadly in Australia.
Let's go to the US now, where drastic measures are in place in several major cities.
You'd be forgiven for thinking it was Christmas.
Midnight tonight, parts of Melbourne are
We all need to keep going. I need all of you to keep going.
Coronavirus. COVID-19. The single cause of millions losing their lives around the world in 2020. Something that started off as seemingly innocuous grew to near unprecedented proportions in such a small amount of time. Now we're in the midst of a global pandemic, but just how are countries and people dealing with this disaster? Today, we've had the fortune of asking several different people living in different countries just how their experience has been.
So my name is Liz Jackson. I live in Hudson, Massachusetts, in the United States of America. I am a mom to 3 boys, and I work part-time in an accountant's office.
My name's Anna. I'm an Australian living in London, and I'm working as a social worker.
My name is Richard Bignolles. I'm living in France at Bordeaux. I'm 50 years old, and I'm working in the post office French Post.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Orchard. I'm an Australian living in Incheon, South Korea. I'm an English teacher at an elementary school.
So when did you first start to notice COVID becoming a problem in your country?
Like many people, we start to worry about the pandemic when we see in Italy and Spain.
I arrived here on the 13th of February, and that also turned out to be the day where restrictions were put in place in Korea.
For us, I remember in maybe towards the middle of January.
I think I first noticed it in January, early this year. I had flights booked to come back to Australia around the middle of February, and one of my boss was actually meant to be flying out after me, and she was saying, I think we have to be worried about this virus that's happening in China. I'm worried about my flights, because she was stopping over near Singapore or somewhere. And I remember just being like, it'll be fine, it's in China.
What was your government's first reaction to the problem?
Rerouting a lot of international travel to fewer airports, and then again, just really pushing everybody to sort of wash their hands. And that was pretty much it. They didn't make a big deal of it.
My friends that were still in the UK were being sent home from work with everything, and they were like, don't expect to come back to the office anytime soon. And then half of them all got furloughed a week later, because they're just like, yep, we won't have any money to pay you. But then pubs stayed open for much longer, so everyone was still going to the pubs. In London, you didn't have to wear masks. They would wear them on public transport, but you didn't see people in the shops wearing masks, and that didn't come in until closer in August or something.
So the first thing we do, we close the restaurant, the movie, distance social, no more touch. Washing hands, the mask. At the beginning, the mask wasn't obligate. But the true story, there was not enough masks for every people.
So for a while, I was kind of confused about what was happening here in South Korea, because technically it never went into lockdown. So there was no officially declared lockdown. People were not required to stay in their homes. But the restrictions that were in place were very, very firm. You must be wearing a mask.
How do you think your government handled the issue?
The government here is still not handling it very well. I read somewhere that on the same day in July, Victoria had 700 cases, the same amount that was in the UK. And now Victoria had 1 active case or 1 new case, and we have 15,500 in one day. It's 7,000 new cases a day here. And they still haven't started a lockdown.
I think there was a big panic. There wasn't really at all. I can't understand, because we don't know exactly what is the COVID, the pandemic, how serious it is. and they wasn't ready at all.
I think they did a really good job, to be honest. That I have some problems with it, but overall, I think the fact that they were firm straight away made a big impact on it.
I'm not surprised. I'm so disappointed in our federal government, but it's just one more way to illustrate, not believing in science, not caring as much about immigrants or people who are Black or brown, who are, disproportionately affected, caring mainly about money.
How do you think the pandemic was handled by people in the country?
I think the people here in the UK are just so reluctant to do what they're told, and they've done that from the start. There's a lot of people who don't think that it's an issue. My friend went down to visit her family, which is sort of south, Devon area, and they were talking to a group of builders that were working on site, and one of them said that he was feeling quite sick, and they're like, well, do you have the symptoms of COVID? And he's like, I wouldn't even know what to look for. I wouldn't even know what to do. Mind you, this is a country where over 40,000 people died from COVID, and I've got no idea what to look for. I just find that so baffling.
I think that most of the French people respect the rules, the COVID. They respect the lockdown. We were supposing to get outside strictly to go to the supermarket, doctor, pharmacy, but no, nothing, no sport, no anything. We have to stay home.
Even once it stops and people stop getting sick and dying, there's still going to be people with these long-lasting effects. There's still going to be people who have lost businesses or lost their jobs. So there's an economic fallout. And then also, I have a son who's in his second year of high school. There's going to be gaps in their education. And I don't know how they're going to accommodate that, moving forward as they start applying for college and beyond. I don't know how they're going to reconcile all of that.
Overall, majority handle it very well. They're very sensible and practical in that sense. There's no question about wearing masks. That is fine. Everyone will be doing it. There's no, if you're not wearing it, that's weird. And they kind of have generally a good attitude towards it. Of course, a lot of people I know they are frustrated, but mainly they're frustrated at the people who aren't following the rules and making it more of a prolonged situation for them.
How long do you think the pandemic will remain an issue in your country?
No, not really. That's really hard to judge because, you go off how they're going now, which is really well, but we were going really well before August 18th or something, and that's when another outbreak happened. So yeah, I don't think they'll be out of danger until maybe midway next year.
Probably more than next year too. Will be very, very long. Probably 1 year we have to check the vaccine before to be in commercial.
It's going to be an issue for a really long time here. I'm really worried actually how long it's going to be an issue here for, because the numbers are just so high and because they're just so slow to make decisions. And I think there's a lot of judgment towards neighbouring countries that make hard decisions. So Wales, for example, has ordered a 2-week lockdown period as a circuit breaker, and Ireland's ordered a 6-week high scale lockdown. And when I was watching the news last night, they would just they talk about it's they're overreacting or something. And I think people viewed how Victoria back home handled it as a massive overreaction, which is such an issue with preventative work, is because you prevented the worst from happening. So you actually don't know how bad it could have been, but people are still mad about how it was prevented. So I think it's going to be an issue here for a really long time.
I mean, it's going to be years, because even once there's either immunity or a vaccination or something, even once it stops and people stop getting sick and dying, there's still going to be people with these long-lasting effects. There's still going to be people who have lost businesses or lost their jobs. So there's an economic fallout.
What's been the biggest personal impact so far?
The human contact and social life. I need to see people, talking with people, and it misses me a lot.
Biggest personal impact for me would be like living away from family over here.
Well, I haven't really been able to do anything. Like when you move to a new country, you want to go and see things and do things and kind of immerse yourself into the culture and the community and you know, make friends and all of that. But since arriving, it's been sort of work, go home, work, go home, work, go home. Because I can't risk, like if I got COVID, that would put me out of work, and which would give my school the right to fire me, which could mean I could lose my visa. So it's like a domino effect. So I just can't even take the risk of going and doing things.
Personally, it's been not being able to see my family, and also having the kids not in regular school. That's been hard, as you know, now they're back in school, so we're doing it here, and it's a lot, and everyone is doing their best. The teachers are all working really hard to kind of give the students what they need, but they're being stretched way too thin.
How do you expect COVID to affect you in the future?
Again, I would say economically, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the election, because I think that's really going to dictate sort of where we go from here. But economically is going to be a big one.
I think they will probably change my private life. The basic, no more kiss when we say hello. For my work, I will probably work at home 3 days per week. They already told us the company, it's good for the economics. They don't spend the local, don't spend equipment. We're working at home.
It's definitely started my experiencing career in a weird way. So I feel like going forward, even if it did get back to normal, it wouldn't really be normal for me. This is the normal for me in this country. So going forward, I think as it slowly like eases off or anything like that, that will be the shocking part to me. And I feel like I will continue to be paranoid and continue to have like a lot of anxiety around what I'm doing and how to be like careful. So even when it's completely risk-free, I'm just going to be like, should I bring my mask? Should I? I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's going to leave that impression in the back of my mind for the rest of my life, maybe.
I hope every day that things change.
I'm quite lucky in that for a lot of people where COVID has affected them, it's been, you know, in their industries, like their jobs, money, that sort of thing. And I've been quite fortunate because of the area that I work in, like there is always work. So I haven't had to worry about that side of things. But I think for me, it has been, as I said, the sort of being away from my family and so that, like, how long that might be for, when will be the next time that I'm able to see them. I think that will impact me for a while. But I think in saying that, like, I have been quite fortunate compared to other people who've been really severely impacted by it. Fingers crossed I don't get COVID, and then I won't have to worry about the long-term impacts of it, like, lung issues and whatever, which sounds really worrying. So hopefully once it gets sort of managed over the next year and a bit or whatever, it can just be like a bad dream. We'll look back at that year as like the worst year, but like we won't really remember the details of it because it'll just be a blur of like misery that we sort of ignore. That would be my dreams. Yeah.
As you can see, people, their governments, and their countries from all over the world have been dealing with the pandemic in their own way. There have been similarities and differences, but one thing that is similar between us all is how serious we and our governments must take this pandemic and any future pandemics.